Welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, the podcast that helps aircraft owners and aviation businesses learn and understand the complex world of aviation insurance and risk management. From the basic principles of aviation insurance to risk management techniques and updates on the aviation insurance market, the Aviation Insurance Podcast is your guide to traverse the world of aviation insurance. Now, here's your host, Tim Bonnell.
Well, welcome to the Aviation Insurance Podcast, and I'm excited to be bringing you another esteemed guest here live on location for us. It won't be live as you're seeing it at the Aviation Insurance Association's annual convention in New Orleans, where we're having a lot of interesting discussions and education sessions and several on emerging technologies. So we've been fortunate to have some very interesting guests with us that I'm excited to bring to you. And so today is no different. In fact, we like to say that Dean Owen is the North America's most innovative CPA, and he is an early customer of one of our new advanced aircraft mobility technology aircraft, a Bibble aircraft. And so, Dee, I'm going to let you introduce you to a lot of things. You're a great entrepreneur, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself from there. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had an interesting career. The counting today would say I'm one of the top 150 CPA financial advisors in North America. That's my team. It's not me. I'm rated. I partner with the guy, Jared English, with a hydrogen technology that if it was widely adopted, we would advance the worldwide climate goals, 2030 climate goals significantly. So working through that, it's a carbon reduction technology. And I've got a construction crew and getting ready to start a company that will compete with asphalt concrete for parking lots. Just got a lot of stuff going on, and I've got some really great teams that let me do this.
Yeah.
I'm seriously thinking about building a CPA firm in Mexico. But there's a huge disconnect between the CPA world in America and in Mexico. In Mexico, CPA labor is extremely abundant. And to the extent so they can have to make more money driving cabs.
Wow.
And here we have a massive, massive shortage. And the 75% of CPAs in America are at retirement age or past.
Wow.
So now it's 3 leave the profession, only one comes in. So it's a problem it's a big enough problem. Somebody needs to set and fix it at a global level.
Yeah. It is no surprise that we're having you here talking about this subject as someone who sees opportunities and obviously in many cases the opportunity to make an impact. So we found yourself here at an Aviation Insurance Association conference, which I'm sure wasn't on your radar about a year ago.
It wasn't on my radar till last week.
Yeah.
That's the last place I would have thought I would show up.
That's right. So, but obviously you're someone who recognizes emerging technologies and innovations, and that's what brings you here. So, just kind of introduce us to that. You found out about either pivotal or advanced aircraft mobility, and now you're in the process of acquiring one and going through pilot training. Just kind of fill us in on what that looked like.
Well, of course, I'm a financial advisor, so I've got clients, and I need to keep them invested. And the news is always so negative, and it's always so draining, and just it's painful. I personally don't watch news unless I pay for it. So then I get honest, unbiased news. But we live in a golden age. We're living in a technology revolution that is absolutely phenomenal. It is only going to get better from here. And we all talk about AI, but there's so much other stuff too, with battery technologies, with medical science, and the extension of life. Just everything is incredible. And if you go look for it, it's there. So I go look for it. And then I've got that to share with clients. One of the technologies I was watching was pivotal with your aircraft. And kind of they're really, really cool people doing some really cool stuff. And it's just empowering to get on YouTube and watch their videos. And then last year they came out with an EAP program, an early adopter program. And I had an application. I thought, well, it didn't cost anything to fill it out. So I filled it out. A few weeks later, Greg from their team called us and said, hey, we'd like you to come down. There's somebody I think we'd like to be part of this. So I thought, well, it's Palo Alto. Haven't been there in a while, so take a run out and take the wife. We can at least have some visit and see some cool technology.
Yeah.
And then I was just blown away at their teams, the way they work. They remind me of when I was in the military working with SEAL teams. I was not a SEAL, but I worked with SEAL teams going in and out of combat zones. And they are just absolutely phenomenal the way they operate. I want my companies to operate that well. If they don't, but that's a very good benchmark for me that we're going to make my companies work that way. And my people are going to be that much of a team. And a lot of people think I'm doing something dangerous. I kind of looked at that and I thought, no, this is not dangerous. These people, they're investing untold gobs. I think there's probably $1 billion invested in this. And these teams are not going to let me fail. They're not going to. And so I said, yes, I'll do it. And all of those assumptions have been absolutely proven. Those teams, the training, the way they interact with each other, they're very, very belligerent about this is what we're going to do. And they're going to overtrain extensively before they ever let you get an aircraft. Last week, or actually this week, I was there for an open house and a day of kind of like a conference day for all the pilots that have gone through this or going to. And we went through some statistics. The average pilot going through the program spends 12.5 days in a simulator before you go out and you fly a very, very, very simple flight aircraft. The safeguards, checks and balances. There was an issue with some training. I was the first one to go through the training program and checked all the boxes. Everything was good back to October. And a week later, they called and said, there's some things we didn't test you on. There's some things we didn't train you on. So you need to come back out. We know you've got some goals next week with your clients and to show this aircraft off. So we're still going to come out and deliver your aircraft. We will come out and fly your aircraft. We will come out and give you your show and check your boxes so that helps don't get next. But you're going to have to come back out. That's basically 4 flight engineers spending a week at my home, teaching me how to fly the aircraft locally as opposed to just at Byron Field. Then went back out for training and didn't quite get everything finished in December. So went back out again. It just in the last 2 weeks, and literally got home 2 days ago from being out with them. And was very fortunate. Thursday and Friday last week, we had wind too high to fly. The Monday did as well. I had a certain number of flights I had to fly. So they got up there at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got there at 6, and we started flying the aircraft, and they did whatever it took to get us done by noon. And I literally landed on the last flight at 12:05. Yeah. So bye-bye.
So it sounds like quite a rigorous pilot training schedule. So I'm guessing that's, obviously you confirmed it like classroom, and you talked about simulator and flight. Like what else did that, like systems? What all does that entail?
It's simulator class. You're basically in a class in the simulator. The simulators they have are absolutely amazing. They are 98% of what flying the aircraft is. So when you're driving around that simulator, you have every look and feel of flying an aircraft. The only thing that you don't get is one, you're in virtual reality, so you realize it's not a perfect picture.
Right.
But and you don't get a little bit of the vibration and the noise. Other than that, it's identical. So after you've proven over and over and over and over again, you can do it in the simulator. And then you'll try to prove it again and again and again. Then they'll let you fly the aircraft under a very, very tightly controlled environment. So, which progresses forward. And then, so we did finish that. I've got another week of traveling, and then they will come back out to Paducah and spend another week with me, flying in my home area, making sure my area is clean. I've got the right place to land. I've got the room. What was happening, and again, this was their first time when I went through, so they're learning. It's a new process. What they didn't account for was trees. And there are no trees at Byron Field in California. There are trees everywhere in Kentucky.
Right.
So, go at it with a good attitude and learn something new and some new steps. I know with my hydrogen business, we're a franchisor and we have franchisees. So every time when you're training, it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. And one of the really interesting things is just from October to December, I saw major steps forward in the training. And then from December to April, there were some massive steps forward. The aircraft is significantly easier and safer today than it was just a few months ago.
So you went from the simulator, and you obviously in your training have already flown the actual aircraft, then other than that, it really wasn't much different.
No, it wasn't. Actually, I have one in my home that they will not turn on until their engineers have come out and done all their training at my location.
Wow.
So, which I respect that very much. They're, not only do they not want me to go out and do something, start to hurt myself or kill myself, but that would set this company back probably 10 years.
Sure.
And they know it. And so it's just a matter they're not going to let me fail.
And what was your pilot training prior to going through their training program?
Absolutely none. The only thing I've ever done interested with airplane is check out a few.
Yeah.
So,
well, hopefully you don't want to do that with this one.
But no aviation experience whatsoever. Got a buddy that's a flight instructor. He between about 2008 and 2016, he would fly me around some every once in a while. He'd let me fly just up in the air, which means don't do anything stupid.
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah. He's there to keep an eye on it. But do you feel, having been through this training program, you feel not only confident in the aircraft with your safety, because you said something like it's safe, like you tell people you didn't even hesitate on that.
Right.
But then you also feel, provided you continue and finish the training that they've outlined, you feel very comfortable flying.
Yeah, I feel extremely comfortable that I can take it and go home tomorrow and get in an aircraft to fly. I also understand they've got checklists and they're not moving off their checklist. They're not deviating. And they're very professional, great people to work with, very respectful, but they're going to follow their checklist. That's it. And if we do not, we're not going to fly that day because it's 10 is the limit.
Wow. So what are some of the features of the aircraft that, give you confidence from a safety perspective, at least?
There's at least every system is redundant. There's 2 joysticks. There's 3 flight controllers. There's 3 PDO tubes, which measure airspeed. 3 GPS units. The aircraft has 8 motors. It can fly with 6 safely. So each motor has 2 batteries for redundancy, not for extension of flight time.
Right.
So it's unbelievably redundant technology, and they're updating it. I don't know, when the first day I went back for this last training, they said your aircraft just said a little bit, it needs to be updated. So I called one of the guys off my construction crew and asked him, this part of my flight crew, asked him to get with them and just do it, follow whatever instructions they had. And the next morning I came in and they told me that my aircraft had very, very few little minor errors from setting for almost 6 months and 4 months, and that it was already, software was updated. So every single flight any one of these aircraft has ever taken has been recorded. The Tuesday when we had dinner and we went to the restaurant, Christine and a couple of the other folks said, they were watching the videos and watching the telemetry data, and they stopped their meetings. Practically the whole company stopped their meetings just to watch what I was doing to see that, okay, this all worked. Went out watched the point. So kind of a monumental moment for everyone.
Yeah, that's part of the discussion we've been having in the industry this last year or two, and certainly on this podcast and then the sessions tomorrow. That's part of why you're here, is just part, not just the emerging technology, but the telematics and the data that can help lead to increased safety and pilot performance. So,
they've had what I understand to be I think it's 25,000 flight hours.
Really?
And of course they've had issues with equipment as you're developing new technologies you're going to, but no one person has been hurt. No one's been killed. So obviously, when you run those kind of numbers on a brand new technology that you've not seen, nobody's ever seen before, they're doing it right. They've got it dialed in pretty tight. And they're continuously doing process improvement. In big ways, taking big, huge steps forward. One of the things, the aircraft has about a 20-minute limit, and that gives a lot of people pause and hesitation because it's really a toy. It's not.
Sure.
But batteries are going to change and improve. And the batteries are plug and play. So as batteries improve, and I have seen the batteries that are the next generation, they'll be improved. Of course, the aircraft has 16 batteries, and the ones today, the batteries that will 10x the power supply are $10,000 a piece. Within a very short period, that number's going to come way down, swap out the batteries. They've got a new version of the aircraft coming out called the Helix. And I'm sure this very small group of early adapter programs. They're going to take care of us on that. I don't know how, but sure, they're a very high trust, high confidence company. They have to trust me a whole lot. I have to trust them a lot. But when we do, we go to amazing things.
So what process, was there training around airspace or, avoiding other aircraft? What did that look like?
Well, this falls under Section 103 of the FAA manual, which is an ultralight, which means no pilot license is required.
Right.
So the FAA has had no interaction with me or I with them whatsoever. So they had to come up with their own training. And that training, there's ground school training that must be adhered to. Those boxes must be checked off before you ever get schedule time to go down and see. Yeah, and it's not terribly difficult training, but it took a little bit for me to understand it because I just never been in that world.
Yeah,
that's all we conversed, all we language. But they're just, very professional, very kind, very warm, but absolutely belligerent. If you don't finish that, you're not coming in for training. Period. That's it. They're very quick to tell me that if I need somebody, if I'm going to fly something, one of my goals is to fly to a school, to give kids a view of what's something else besides all the negativity in society.
Right.
And something to jazz them up and give them hope. And they said, if we're going to do that, call them and tell them, and they will send someone out, make sure all the airspace boxes are checked, make sure everything's safe, and talk about the technology and answer questions that I might not. Personally, I kind of stayed away from knowing a whole lot about the technology because I know it's proprietary. I don't want to slip up and make a mistake and close something I shouldn't.
Right.
So, and let them ask a technical question. Like, that's not my forte or interest.
Yeah. So, it's been a journey. It's been ongoing training. It's been communication. You've interacted with various teams to ensure that, they don't have a problem, knowing that it would, in fact, set you back. Have you even approached the subject of insurance, trying to obtain coverage for that vehicle? Or?
I do. The folks at McGriff Insurance have been very, very good to me. I'm insurance poor. There's lots of properties and everything else. And, they've been amazing. And they have an aircraft division, aviation division. They went high and low everywhere they could find, and there is nowhere to write insurance for these things. Right now there's only 3 in the world that are flying in customer hands. So nobody knows, and everyone's afraid of what they don't know.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully what we're here for, is to share with the airline, the industry, and the insurance industry what this is and how little risk it poses, because insurance is a big deal. Especially once you accumulate some assets, you become a target, and insurance is a way to protect us from that. So I'm sure it won't be. I'm sure it will not be inexpensive, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah. So, it's an unknown, and obviously most ultralights aren't, probably as expensive to acquire and replace and all those things. So that's a challenge, but it is an emerging risk that needs coverage. As you said, the people purchasing these, are going to need liability protection. Many of them will want some sort of physical damage protection, and that's where, it is. It's part of the education of the industry. That's why you're here. That's why we're having these discussions, to look at what does this look like, because it is new. Yeah. Like I said, there's 3. It's brand new, so I'm really, along with others in our industry, that's the discussions we want to start having, is how do we address this? And aviation does have a track record of stepping up to meet needs, from the first aircraft to space and jumbo jets and all those things. They've found solutions, and this is a new beast, and so it's kind of just time that those conversations start happening, because it's coming, right, and it's coming quickly.
And I believe in my lifetime we'll get to a point where personal transportation includes air transport.
Yeah,
and I believe that very fully. And about the only thing it would take to go from this being a toy to a tool is battery adoption and advancement. And we know that's coming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the battery, that's become a well-documented and followed issue. I mean, but obviously Tesla's brought that, to perspective, and that's been following suit in the aviation industry.
It's one of the questions I ask my clients is, when was the last time you used a drill with cord on it? It's been a season. Yeah. Up until 2013, every drill you used had cord on it.
Is that right?
So, phenomenal changes, and you think, but that's just one decade, and we eliminated a lot of corded gasoline powered tools. On my farm, we use powered. And they work extremely well.
Yeah.
And no more having to mix up gas and oil and use 2-cycle motors and all that kind of stuff. And they're only going to get better.
Yeah. I mean, that's really, we were talking with someone, an underwriter who specializes in trying to write these emerging risks. And he kind of shared with us, he really is learning that you're insuring a flying battery. And he spent a lot of time, actually, that's part of it. He's learned more and more about this is actually, learning about the batteries. And that's kind of the big part of the risk evaluation process.
Yeah, and probably 24,500 of the Audi of this thing has flown, has been unmanned. Mm-hmm. It's really set up, it's a drone. One of the questions that was asked last Wednesday was, how long would it take Pivotal to program this thing to take off from a spot and land in another spot? It said about 15 minutes. You just got the idiot. Yeah. Right? It would fly without a person manned or unmanned. So really the human input is more of the play of the experience than controlling the aircraft. It basically takes off. As long as you hold that toggle switch up, it takes off on its own. As long as you hold that toggle switch down and you hit the trigger, it lands itself. Other than that, it's more user experience than it's user control.
That's interesting. So is there some emergency type of procedures should you feel some sort of loss of control or disorientation or something like that?
Yes, and they go through that extensively in the simulators. You got AGLs, which are basically your radars. And it's using that to know how far it is off the ground, so it's using that for its auto-link function. If you lose that, then you have to fly it to the ground. If you lose GPS, and it doesn't know how, that's what it uses to position itself stable in the wind. So there's extensive training on how do you handle a GPS failure. And there's extensive training on what happens if a motor fails. The way the system's set up, if you have one motor fail, the other motor on the opposite side will fail, or will be turned off to keep the aircraft stable. And they go through the procedures every time before you go to flight. What do you do with a yellow caution? What do you do with a red caution? What do you do with a purple caution? In addition to that, there's a parachute. And it is the only completely manual system on the aircraft. And there's a canister at the front, and there's an explosive pack. You do have to be about 200 feet for it to work.
Right.
But if you're 400 feet and there's a catastrophic failure, which they have never had, then pull the parachute. The aircraft can be landed on water. Because of an abundance of caution, if it was landed on water, my agreement with them is I'll send it back. They'll pay to get it back or something. We haven't had that happen.
Right.
But somehow it will get back to them and we can thoroughly checked out and re-certified. So I'm looking forward to seeing somehow they're going to figure out how to land and take this thing off from the water. That's going to be cool. That will be revolutionary. So you might have an aircraft on water.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because a lot of players have entered this space, and there's been a competition for money, and Pivotal, among others, is one that have kind of emerged through that. And clearly,
they were out a few weeks ago with the X Prize, which is some huge number of funding dollars to help fund development, and they're very much in the running for that. There are some other players in this space, but they're not ready for prime time. They're not ready to deliver aircraft to customers. So Pivotal is. I think we're probably going to fly into Oshkosh this year. Just a group of their customers, not their test pilots, but customers, just to show the world this company's ready to go, and you can place orders for that's able to deliver.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting because 2024 we kind of anticipated was the year we'd really start seeing it happen, and as we're having this conversation, we're starting to see those first steps, and that's what it takes to walk, right? Is the first steps, and it'll be interesting to see because there's just a lot of, as you said, just from just talking to you here, a lot of investment financially, and then obviously they know up front that the cost of failure and the cost of issues, and so I'm relieved as being in the insurance risk management side of it to hear that there's a lot of thought and not just thought, hard guardrails against not meeting these training milestones.
And what just absolutely fascinates me is the speed of innovation and thinking outside the box. One story I just found absolutely amazing, that all the wires are in the motors, electric motors, so there's a lot of wire in the aircraft. I think somebody said, about 2 miles of wire in each aircraft. each wire is a sum of 160 wires that are bundled together. And somehow they figured out that dental floss, a particular kind of dental floss, was the best tool to bundle that wire with. And during COVID, they ran out and they couldn't find it, so they went to Walgreens corporate. And on that particular type of dental floss, they bought all of it. Walgreens had corporate for every store, shipped it to them. And their motors smell like mint. You can't make that up.
No, you can't. I guess that's the value add. It's works well and it's refreshing. That's great. Well, I mean, obviously, it's very clear you're someone who looks at a lot of technologies and companies. You're very passionate about this one. Obviously, there's others out there, and you've done some due diligence. So it's interesting to hear. And we don't always have a customer perspective on something, certainly something new. So it's exciting to have you here on the podcast and here for our Aviation Insurance Association. Oh, absolutely. We appreciate it. And so I guess I would just close by asking, anything that we, in this short time here we didn't discuss you think would be important to share, or just any closing thoughts?
No, just you can order one of these aircraft and understand you're going to take 2 weeks for training. You're not going to get out of any shorter than that.
Yep.
But and it'll be a journey getting trained, because there's so many overlapping security things that they're going to require.
Right.
We travel bulldozer, and I just had to submit to that these guys. I jokingly say I think they've got the checklist on how to link their backside. and they update their checklist.
Yeah.
So and they listen to customers and they implement things that make sense. I can't say it's something about them.
Well, it's exciting to hear. I think we're going to hear more about them in future episodes. So, but it's great. It's always nice to hear someone at the user's perspective. It's provides a broader level of appreciation and depth of what the manufacturer's saying, and it's just great to be learning about these new technologies from someone really doing it. And
well, I believe enough in this that not only just Pivotal with them, but this whole space. And I can't speak to any other company because I don't work with them, but I hope it's able to give the insurance industry a better feel of not only what the company has to say about themselves, but what about the end user.
Yeah.
I feel extremely, extremely confident that I'm going to get in that aircraft, I'm going to go play, and I'm all land safe and breathe single.
That's great. Well, Dave, it's been a great pleasure to meet you here and just to hear about your experience and to look ahead and being on the forefront of this new and exciting area in our industry. And as you said, probably a combination of industries in the future, and just to hear what you're doing. So thank you for being with us here today. All right. Well, that's all for this episode. Join us again next time as we continue navigating the waypoints in aviation insurance. Until then, enjoy clear skies and unlimited visibility.
Thanks for listening to the Aviation Insurance Podcast. If you found this episode of value, please share it with someone who would benefit from this information. Don't forget to subscribe in your podcast player so you don't miss any new episodes, and to help our show have more impact. This episode is brought to you by Aris Insurance Solutions, your flight plan for navigating the turbulence of aviation insurance. For more information, visit arisinsurance.com. That is www.aerisinsurance.com. Disclaimer: these episodes are for educational purposes only, and due to the changing regulatory and legal nature of the business, some information may change over time. Having a well-educated and experienced aviation insurance broker on your team is an absolute requirement to success in business and for managing your aircraft and aviation business risks.